Good afternoon. Please take your seats so we can start. So welcome and thank you for coming to the press conference by the United Nations. The UN takes the issue of water and sanitation very seriously. You can actually see that from the lineup we have here. We could not all fit on the stage. There are 10 UN agencies that are represented at the forum, and you'll be able to see 7 of them here and ask them questions. We will have 3 statements to start with. First, by Ms. Armida Alisjahbana, Executive Secretary of the Economic and Social Commission for the Asia Pacific, ESCAP. Then Ms. Celeste Saulo, Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization. And then Xing, the Deputy Director General of UNESCO. We also have next to the stage Lydia Brito, who is the Assistant Secretary General of UNESCO. Mary Matthews, different order, Cecilia Sharp, who is the Director of Water, Sanitation, Hygiene, Climate, Energy, Environment, and Disaster Risk Reduction at UNICEF. And Mary Matthews, Lead of the Water Program at UNDP. We will also have joining, as soon as their other engagement finishes, Li Fengli, Director of the Land and Water Division at FAO, which just won the World Water Prize yesterday, and Susan Gardner, Director of the Ecosystem Division at UNEP. But before that, I'd like to hand over to Ibu Armida, who is Undersecretary General and the Executive Secretary of ESCAP, a position she's held since 2018. She was the Minister of National Development Planning of our host country, Indonesia, from 2009 to 2014, and she's a professor of economics. So, silakan, Ibu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Miklos. Terima kasih. A very good afternoon to media colleagues. Selamat sore, and I understand that many colleagues from Indonesian media, so maybe later on you may as well, if you would like to post question in Indonesian language, very much welcome. So let me start, and we have also colleagues here, Celeste and Xing, that will also provide further highlights. So I would like to share some initial remarks on the occasion of the 10th World Water Forum. I will start by highlighting some of the main aspects of the challenges that confront us. As we know, water is key to achieving SDG 6. So SDG 6, but of course this is very much interlinked to almost all SDGs, especially goals 1 and goal 2 on poverty and hunger. However, 2.2 billion people lack access to safe drinking water, and half of the global population does not have access to safe sanitation. UNICEF informs that 700 children under 5 die every day due to a lack of appropriate wash services. Wash access is a major focus of the UN system's effort. As an example, between 2020 and 2024, UNICEF provided over 23 million people with climate-resilient water services and over 17 million people with climate-resilient sanitation services. However, meeting the demand for water for wash services and for other uses, including agriculture and industry, is becoming more challenging. So that's the issue of competing water use. 1 in 10 people live in countries with high or critical water stress. The latest World Water Report under the theme of Water for Peace and Prosperity points out that due to climate change, seasonal water scarcity is projected to increase even where it is now abundant. For example, in Central Africa, East Asia, and parts of South America. Water will become even scarcer where supplies are already short. At the same time, the UN's tracking of SDG progress shows that some 40 of monitored water bodies have poor water quality. Combined with a projected increase in floods, water-related risk for economic sectors, cities, rural areas and communities are multiplying, and the cost will be high. I also would like to highlight just 2 ways to help ensure that seasonal water scarcity, drought, and water-related disasters do not become rolling crises. Yes? So therefore, how to prevent scarcity to become crisis. The first is cooperation on shared water resources. Enhanced collaborative efforts between countries, regions, sectors, and stakeholders are needed. In addition to monitoring new resources and promoting innovation, collaboration can help close financing gaps. Public-private partnerships on water efficiency as championed, for example, by UNIDO, can help. Collaborative actions that bring mitigation, adaptation, and disaster risk reduction agendas may also help narrow financing gap. The unmet adaptation financing needs alone are estimated, for example, for our region, Asia Pacific, we estimated at ESCAP at about 145 billion US dollar annually on average. Scientific assessment is another important focus for cooperation. This is the second focus. For example, again, next month, we look forward to the launch of the WMO-led Third Pole Climate Forum. So SG is here, SGWMO, which will galvanize the best scientists and most competent development actors in the world on glacier melt. Second, investment in data system for early warnings are essential. Better data for effective early warning systems can decrease disaster losses by up to 60%. Following, of course, the guidance from our member state in Asia Pacific, member state meaning government in Asia Pacific, UN system is coming together to deliver the multi-hazard early warning system. So many of the UN agencies, UNDRR, WMO, ITU, ourselves ESCAP, as well as IFRC are working together on this, the development and setup of early warning for all, while UNICEF is mapping groundwater reserves as input to preparedness and adaptation planning. Media colleagues, friends, the first UN conference on water in over 50 years was convened in New York in 2023, last year, after 50 years, marking a pivotal moment in sustainable development discourse and especially a dedicated focus on water. This unprecedented gathering of UN member states and stakeholders signaled the beginning of a new narrative in addressing water-related challenges. And one of the outcomes of this very important conference was over 830 voluntary pledges for action, the so-called the Water Action Agenda 2023. And following this conference, this landmark conference, UN member states, that is countries, adopted a resolution recognizing the imperative for improved, inclusive, and transparent water cooperation and called upon the UN Secretary General to present a comprehensive UN system-wide water and sanitation strategy. And this particular strategy that will be further supported by all UN will be launched July, so in 2 months' time, during a high-level political forum on SDGs in New York. So this will be developed through a collaborative effort, again, UN system-wide and dedicated to water and sanitation. And again, maybe I just would like to, again, recognize, but DDG of FAO is here. He would, I'm sure, would be very pleased also to reiterate again and would like to, on behalf of UN, would extend our appreciation and thanks to the jury committee of the King Hassan II for, again, the award to FAO, the King Hassan II Great World Water Prize for the recognition of FAO's contribution to water security. So again, on behalf of the UN system, I would like to express, first of all, once again, the appreciation to the leadership as well as the hospitality of the government of Indonesia in hosting this very important and successful forum, and also to thank colleagues from the media, friends from the media who have taken the time to join us in this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibu. Next, I'd like to call on Ms. Celeste Saulo, the Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, to give her remarks. She's been holding this post since January, and before that, she was the first Vice President of WMO, and she's also the first person from the Americas to be Secretary General at WMO. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues from the press. It is an honor for me to be here, and I would like to start acknowledging the government of Indonesia for this wonderful organization and this warm welcome to all of us. This World Water Forum takes place as our host country mourns dozens of victims of a cold lava mudslide from the Mount Merapi volcano triggered by heavy rainfall. Hundreds of people have been killed by historic floods in Brazil and East Africa and by flash floods in Afghanistan. Central America and Southern Africa face extreme droughts. These disasters once again show the vulnerability of society to the cascading impact of water-related hazards, either in the form of too much or too little. Asia is the world's worst hit region. More than 80% of reported weather, climate, and water disasters were due to flood and storm events in 2023. There were more than 2,000 fatalities and 9 million people directly affected. The socioeconomic costs are huge and are often underreported. At the same time, 3.6 billion people globally face inadequate access to water at least a month per year, and this is expected to increase to more than 5 billion by 2050. 2023 was by far the hottest year on record. We have had 11 consecutive months of record global temperatures. We have had 13 consecutive months of record global sea surface temperature. Melting glaciers bring the threat of looming water shortages for many millions. Rising sea levels bring the threat of coastal flooding to millions more. El Niño has played a role in both the high temperatures and extreme weather patterns, but the heat trapped by greenhouse gases from human activities is a much more important driver. El Niño will fade. Climate change, unfortunately, is here to stay. Warmer air holds more moisture. The hydrological cycle is therefore more intense, as we are witnessing on a regular basis. This is why the UN Secretary General launched a campaign to ensure that early warning systems protect everyone on the planet by 2027. I am proud that the World Meteorological Organization is one of the leaders of this flagship initiative. We are committed to its success. It brings together the WMO, the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, International Telecommunication Unions, and International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, and all the UN family. It embraces many other partners, including multilateral funding banks, the private sectors, and big techs. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. early warning services for floods and droughts must be tailored to individual countries' needs and priorities in the context of disaster risk management. Thus, in Indonesia, WMO's member, the Meteorological, Climatological, and Geophysical Agency, BMKG, works closely with disaster management authorities and civil society. A strong and capable national meteorological and hydrological service is crucial to the success of early warnings for all. Better forecasts and management of water-related hazards are pivotal to the success of early warnings for all. We want to ensure that no one is surprised by a flood and everyone is prepared for a drought. WMO works to strengthen and integrate hydrological services to support climate change adaptation. A major obstacle is the lack of information about the currently available water resources and future availability and demand. Today, we cannot manage what we do not measure. 60% of WMO member states report declining capabilities in hydrological monitoring. Therefore, WMO has a wide-ranging hydrology action plan with 8 long-term ambitions. No one is surprised by a flood. Everyone is prepared for a drought. Hydroclimate and meteorological data support the food security agenda. High-quality data supports science. Science provides a sound basis for operational hydrology. We have a thorough knowledge of the water resources of our world. Sustainable development is supported by hydrological information. Water quality is known. It is a very ambitious plan. We cannot afford to fail. To conclude, I would like to quote the opening remarks to this conference of Loïc Fauchon, President of the World Water Council. We have to convince and persuade people that water needs even more innovation, finance, and governance. We have to fight peacefully, fight for the peace of water, for its security, for prosperity. Let's just accelerate. The situation is urgent, and we are here in Bali to shout out because we are world water warriors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Saulo. Some of that fighting is done based on science, and so we'll hear next from Mr. Xing, who's been DDG of UNESCO since 2018, and before that, he was China's ambassador to Belgium. Mr. Xing, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me first of all express my thanks to the Indonesian government for hosting this 10th World Water Forum. Dear friends from the press, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to water, 2 statistics are particularly revealing. First, 60% of world's freshwater resources are transboundary. Second, 2.2 billion people has no access to safely managed drinking water in 2022. As these figures show, water is a truly global issue and one which calls for global solutions. For this reason, UNESCO works to support sustainable water management worldwide, including as one of the founding organizations of the very first World Water Forum 27 years ago. Nearly 3 decades on, At this 10th forum, UNESCO continues to play a leading role on technical support to the forum organization. We have three priorities in the field of promoting a better global water governance. So priority number one, enhancing knowledge. This is especially true in the fields of knowledge and innovation, one of the forum's central themes. We cannot manage what we cannot measure, and at UNESCO, the UN primary scientific organization, we have a wealth of experience in gathering data and sharing it with the international community. Already, our water information network system serves as an open database of global and local water information. UNESCO is also uniquely positioned to mobilize experts and citizen scientists alike. For example, we are harnessing citizen science through our pioneering climate risk-informed decision analysis methodology, a participatory initiative which seeks to quickly identify climate vulnerabilities in water-stressed areas, notably in Africa. In addition, UNESCO champions sustainable solutions based on indigenous knowledge and practices. This includes over 51 demonstration sites in 32 countries where water professionals can learn about nature-based solutions like the Subak water terrace technique here in Indonesia or the Putrajaya wetland filtration system in Malaysia. Priority number two, changing mindsets. Our second priority is using knowledge to bring about a change in mindset about water at every level of society. In line with UNESCO's global mandate on education, we are actively advocating for more climate and environmental education in school curriculum. We are also leading awareness-raising campaigns, including through our global network of water museums, 89 institutions across 32 countries in the world that reach an estimated 10 million visitors per year, including the Mandela Matika Subak Museum here in Bali. In addition, UNESCO is training a new generation of water professionals, taking into account cross-cutting considerations in health, agriculture, and the environment. Each year, UNESCO trains around 20,000 people through its UNESCO Water Family, a global network that includes research centers and university chairs. And we are mobilizing governments to prioritize water solutions, for example, to fight leaks. Today, it is estimated that from 5% to 50% of water never reaches its destination due to leaky pipes and faulty systems. There is an urgent need to resolve these inefficiencies by harnessing technological, like the Internet of Things, to identify and fix leaks at every stage of the water supply. Priority number three, increase the cooperation on shared water resources. Since everyone on the planet will be affected in one way or another by water challenges and scarcity, UNESCO's third priority is facilitating international cooperation on water. Water can be a vector for peace, as underlined in the latest World Water Development Report published by UNESCO on behalf of UN Water in March 2024 on World Water Day. And because the first step towards water cooperation is often pinpointing shared groundwater resources, UNESCO has helped to identify transboundary systems across 153 countries, including 468 aquifers and 286 rivers and lakes. UNESCO also has vast experience in helping countries better manage shared water resources. UNESCO's decade-long groundwater resources governance in transboundary aquifers project has provided expertise on the management of transboundary aquifers across 3 continents, notably in the Mekong River region, to use collaborative groundwater management to improve climate change resilience, and in the Senegal River Basin to generate electricity at a lower cost and from clean resources. So I touched upon the major aspects of UNESCO's work in promoting world water management. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Xing Chu, and I understand that you have to go. So we have a bit of a choreographic shift, upsetting the great gender balance on stage. So I'd like to call on Lydia Brito to take your seat.
Yeah,
the Assistant Director General at UNESCO.
UNESCO for Science, Lydia
Yes.
Brito, who is in charge of the water management in UNESCO. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And thank you for coming. So the DDG, mentioned many things, but one of them was about changing minds. And that's partly where all our collective responsibilities for us communicators lies. And so I'd like to hand over to you to ask questions to the speakers here, and then also to UNEP, FAO, UNICEF, and UNDP representatives, senior representatives who are here with us. Yes, ma'am. Do we have mics somewhere?
Good afternoon. I am Tressa Belutasoid. I'm a freelance writer. I'm not sure who's going to answer these questions. I leave it to all of you, the panelists. But I really like what Ibu Alisjahbana said, that you actually link UN SDG number 6, clean water and sanitation, to number 1, no poverty and 0 hunger. My purpose is try to contribute to UN SDG number 4, which is quality education, and 5, gender equality. I can recite the whole 17. I even know that we're initiating number 18. So I like that. I like to see that you guys are actually trying to teach us the understanding that all UN SDG forces are linked to one another. My questions are, I have 5, just 2. 1, how does the UN actually oversees how each UN SDG forces interlink and supports one and another? The second part, how do you think policymakers can actually be more familiar with the UN SDG and adapt them into all the decisions that they're making? So, well, even if you think they are familiar with it enough, you can share your insight on it. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ibu, you want to take these questions on the SDGs? Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Yes, please.
Diri nih.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andira. I'm from C Today. So this question is basically to all of you because you mentioned before that earlier from all of your presentation, it's more into collecting data as well as technology. But what we know so far is that the water crisis, it usually happens to the regions who are isolated and we have difficulty to even to reach it and also to access and also with the difficulty in network. So how do you make sure that all of this could hit the right target? So like the implementation could be effective for them all. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take one more question and then we respond.
Hello, I'm Yunari Sandi from Antara News Agency. My question is related to the Global Water Fund that is initiated by Indonesia. How urgent do you think the establishment of this fund? And
Sorry, could you start again just a bit slower?
sorry. My question is related to the Global Water Fund. How urgent do you think the establishment of this fund? And the second one is that the need for investment and financing in the water sector is huge, but the global water sector currently attracts less than 2% of public spending. So according to UNIC maybe, to what extent can the Global Water Fund answer these problems?
Thank you. So let me repeat. The question, if I understood correctly, was about the Global Water Fund and how financing and investment issues could be dealt with, particularly given that only 2% of global government spending is on water. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. So perhaps, Ibu, if you're okay with that, I'd like to call on you to answer the first questions and then the others too.
Thank you very much. Terima kasih for the question. Let me respond first, and colleagues here will certainly provide further response or answer. With regard to SDG, as we understand, of course, SDGs goals are 17 goals. It is not a fragmented or a standalone. Each of the goals is not a standalone goals in itself, because all SDGs are interlinked. Maybe one SDG interlinked more with a few of the SDGs and so on, but for sure, all the SDGs are interlinked. So therefore, from the beginning, from the concept, from how we introduce, how we approach, including all the UN system support to our member state, our work with stakeholders, we take this interlink or this synergistic, or maybe some of you also know as a nexus approach. For example, water, in the case of water energy poverty, for example, or water energy climate, So water is SDG 6, energy SDG 7, climate action SDG 13. So very closely interlinked, right? And then from there on, we will also be able to focus a little bit more on the point of intervention. Because again, bearing in mind that resources are scarce, whether funding or other resources are scarce, so a targeted approach, I think would work much more effectively. And then on the more specific question, on a policymaker, related to policymaker, I know, for example, in the case of Indonesia, SDG has been mainstream, and I'm sure also in many member states, many countries, SDG has been mainstream from early on, from the development, let's say, from the National Development Plan, as well as the budget. It's already mainstream. Before it was MDGs, less extensive, and now SDGs. So, and you and colleagues here then work further on a specific focus, for example, whether it's agriculture or water and so on, but again, bearing in mind the interlinked nature of SDGs. If I may just quickly touch on this issue, a question on investment and financing. So indeed, the need of financing or investment is huge. But then also, I think aside from government, yeah, of course, water is sort of one of the basic services, yeah. So therefore, the function or roles of government is crucial, especially for the basic services, yeah, the water as a basic services. But then, in terms of scaling up, yeah, then we need also to think, and not only think, yeah, but develop and implement the so-called innovative financing. And I'm sure there are many good practices, yeah, on innovative financing, including for the water sector. So I think through this kind of forum, this international or the World Water Forum, this is exactly the forum where the parties can share with each other the best practices, including on innovative financing for water. Yeah, so maybe then I'm sure colleagues will be able to share more
Yes.
on this.
If all right, I would like to call on our speaker from UNICEF, Cecilia Sharp, to also comment on the interplay between the different SDGs, the relationship of the water-related SDG 4 to the others.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So, I'm first of all, thank you for really making this point that all the SDGs are completely interlinked. And I think with the way the world is developing at the moment, we see more and more of interconnectedness between the goals and the targets. And then, of course, when it comes to WASH, which I represent when I'm here, of course, having access to water and sanitation and hygiene for schools, for instance, is extremely critical to ensure that young girls and boys does not spend much time on collecting water. So having access to water makes them more prominent to go to school. Obviously, having access to water and sanitation, but also hygiene facilities in schools help girls to stay in school and focus on learning instead of maybe staying at home. When they are coming into their puberty, extremely important with menstrual hygiene management and educating young girls in that sense. That's the education, and of course the links to health is also extremely critical. All outcomes having access to water and sanitation is measured against health targets. So obviously what we are looking for is decreasing under 5 mortality, for instance, in children, and also overall people impacted of infectious disease, diarrheal disease, etc. And at the moment, I think this is a space which is also getting more attraction because of climate impacting the rise of infectious disease in countries. We see more than 30 countries now who have cholera epidemics and reporting cases of cholera death even. And this is the situation where we shouldn't be in. People should have access to safe water and sanitation, which is the solution to have sustainable access, I must say, to safe water and sanitation, to be able to fight cholera in countries, for instance. So I think maybe that is a piece of what I wanted to add. So.
No, that's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
short.
I'd like to turn to Ms. Saulo and Ms. Brito for the question on collecting data from isolated regions.
Okay, thank you very much for all the questions. Maybe I would like to comment on the package of the questions because I think that they are also very linked between them. And starting from the idea of that we should all avoid fragmentation. Fragmenting the Sustainable Development Goals is not a solution, so that's why we should have a systemic approach to the Sustainable Development Goals. And as an example, for example, I would like to highlight what do you think is the connection between gender equality and climate action? Do you have the idea? Yes?
By a certain age or puberty, as you example, that means we give us power to give birth to better generation who understands about climate change. And these generations, of course, must have clean water and sanitation so that they don't minimize the risk of maternal death. One of the problems that most of parts of the world are still facing. So that's how it relates.
Yes, definitely. So they are completely interlinked. I would say also when you have an extreme event, women and children are the most exposed. However, most of the measures that we take are not targeted towards women or children. They are targeted towards the majority of the population. So we should address all the sustainable goals in a systemic way. So that's one issue. The other issue has to do with data. And how do you manage you need data to drive information. And we know that particularly in the global south, there is a strong lack of data. But we also know that if we cooperate globally, knowing or having data in the global south will benefit not only the global south, but also the global and the planet. So we should break the silos, and we should help the less developed world to support and to really reinforce their capabilities in terms of gathering more data. It's not about one country. Whatever happens here in Indonesia, and if you don't have enough data, tomorrow will happen into some other country. If you don't have the data to monitor and prevent and forecast, you will fail. So sharing data and supporting the countries that are not able to have enough infrastructure is critical for the benefit of all the world. And so the most developed countries should help the developing world into reinforcing their infrastructures. And the other point I would like to make is about capacity development. It's not about just bringing a solution from one place to the other. It's co-producing a solution that is fit for purpose at the local level. We all know, we all speak about climate change, but actually climate change is affecting every person in a different way. So we need, that is local, the impact is local, so our efforts should be local. And that is where the UN has a strong capability to react and to have a common action at the local level, of course with the governments. My last point would go to the governments. If the governments do not prioritize the topics that we've been addressing, it's impossible for us to do it from the outside. So how each country prioritizes water, how each country prioritizes investment in meteorological and hydrological data, how each country prioritizes education, how each country prioritizes health is something that should be addressed in, I would say, in a systemic way so we can all move forward. That is my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Lydia, would you like to add something on the data collection? And after that, I'd like to go to Mary Matthews to address the issue of funding, lack of funding. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And again, thank you for the questions. And again, like Celeste, I would like to address in a combined way, because of course, as it was said by Armida, the Agenda 2030 is designed as an integrated agenda. So the goals are together and are synergetic and are integrated. And the system that we have together with the governments are regional systems where in each region and the UN Economic Regional Commissions, they organize every year what we call the SDG regional forums, where ministers of planning, of economics, of education come together from the different countries to really look to the progress and to make sure, as Celeste was mentioning, that these targets are also part of the national development programs. And at the national level, the UN country team also work with the national governments to make sure that our cooperation framework that is related to sustainable development also addresses the goals that are part of the Agenda 2030. So we do have systems in the UN to work closely with governments and to make sure the integration, but also the promotion of these important goals. In terms of collecting data, and again, Celeste mentioned that we need to support each other to create cooperation. One of there are two things that UNESCO is doing. One is really the network of scientists and Category 2 centers and UNESCO shares that are constantly researching, investigating, collecting data that allows at the local, national, regional, and global level to have a better picture to understand what is happening. And that's not only on climate, but it's also biodiversity lost, quality of water, quantity of water, and of course very much related to vulnerability to disasters. And the second point that I want to make is the open science UNESCO recommendation, because there is a lot of satellite data that is collected by different countries, different agencies that cover the world. But they are not accessible to countries that don't have those facilities. So promoting open data, data sharing, capacity building to interpret this data will indeed create the capacity, even in remote areas, to allow these communities and the local governments there to be more prepared to manage disasters. And therefore, that's why our approach, when we deal with early warning systems, we work not only with the national governments, but also with local communities from a perspective of capacity building, but also involving them in the monitoring of changes and making sure that the solutions are local solutions, nature-based solutions, but local solutions. And finally, allow me to address the funding issue. Because sometimes we talk about billions and billions and billions, and of course, when you see billions, you said they are not there. It was mentioned already. But we are also looking to affordable solutions. And that, I think, is why it's important to take the point that Celeste made, that the impact is local. So solutions should also be developed locally, and they don't need to have tremendous investment in infrastructure. Our eco-hydrology program that our Deputy Director General mentioned, we are looking to nature-based solutions that are affordable and that can be also managed by these communities themselves. So I think there is also the role of science and technology to really come with sustainable solutions and to create the capacity in the communities to really understand. And that means creating a culture of science and a culture of integrating scientific knowledge in decision-making, not only at national, but also at global level. So I will stop here because I think we are finalizing the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. So we've heard about needs-based solutions, the importance of local and science-based policymaking. Over to Mary Matthews from UNDP for a brief answer on the financing, please.
On the financing, thank you so much, and thank you to the government of Indonesia and our partners as well. One of the things when it comes to financing is water is incredibly underfunded as infrastructure, and yet the need is tremendous. If women in rural communities who have to carry water, 80% of households that don't have water, the time spent carrying water falls to women, which means if we could get that water through the last mile, we could empower 640 million women to be active and engaged and involved. Now, the trick here is, how do we do that? And we've got to do this through financing. And the financing isn't just a matter of coming up with a little bit of money here. The World Bank released a report several weeks ago about how much money is needed. It is in the hundreds of billions of dollars to fill that financing gap. Why don't we do that? Because we don't value water. Everybody assumes there's plenty of water and that the water will get there and we can keep going. But the problem we have is that that's not the case. And we use water at amazing rates, but there's not the political will yet, and there will be, I believe, to address water because water is such a critical resource. We look at energy transformation, and we've done amazing work with energy transformation. People lived for thousands and thousands of years without alternative energy or without energy. No person on this planet who's ever lived has ever lived without water. And what we need to do as experts, as advocates, as journalists, as UN organizations is we need to work together to help bring that to the fore with the data, with the capacity development, with the information about climate change, and we need to raise that profile. We need to help our governments who have asked us for help. We need to help them find the financing to do this through funds, through loans, through grants. However we can do that, we need to help that happen, and then we need to help with the capacity, and we need to do this urgently. The Global Commission for the Economics of Water has shown we have broken the global water cycle. The College of Actuarials in the UK are doing some amazing work and showing that right now, we've got, and we know 80% of climate change impacts are water related. Right now, when apprising the impacts of water related, if we go up 5 degrees Celsius, according to the estimates that are currently being used, we'll see a 20% change in GDP for 5 degrees. That is ridiculous. If we go more than 2.3 degrees, we're going to see catastrophe globally, and in large part because of water. So we urgently have to bring this to the fore. We have to get the public sector, the private sector, and of course all the UN organizations and all the other NGOs, journalists, children, working together. We have to do this. We do not have time to compete over funding or to compete between ourselves. This is why the UN Water System-Wide Strategy on Water and Sanitation is so critical. And this is also why, honestly, it's absolutely imperative that the work we do together, we do with the greater good. And honestly, we do it not for ourselves, and even not for our children, but for our grandchildren and their grandchildren, so that they will inherit a planet that has value, that is healthy, and that is survivable. And if we don't change the way we do this, we won't be able to do that. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mary. So the importance of collaboration and last mile were among the things you mentioned. And collaboration is an area where FAO works in. So I'd like to call on Li Feng Li, Director of Land and Water Division at FAO, to really briefly tell us a bit about the interplay between agriculture and water. And then we go to our final speaker, Director of Ecosystems Division at UNEP, Susan Gardner, to wrap it up, because in 5 minutes we have to stop.
Okay, thank you very much. Agriculture and water, I think it's obvious, because food is water and water is food. And from agriculture perspective, it's very clear that we cannot achieve food security without look at water, without achieving water security. So that's why FAO has been advocate that let's work together to bring the water sector, agriculture sector together to advance joint solutions or integrated solutions. That is one of the reasons that FAO yesterday was recognized and then received the King Hassan II, the Great World Water Prize. I think that's really a recognition of FAO's new strategy, new approach to ensure a joint agenda, integrated solutions, holistic approach to address the challenges facing us. Because at the end of the day, agriculture sector is the largest sectoral water use, accounting for 72% of human freshwater withdrawal. We talk about climate change, that's going to affect us. But from agriculture perspective, 70–80% of the economic damage caused by climate change, caused by the flood, caused by the drought, is happening in the agriculture sector. If we look into the future by 2050, and we need to produce at least 50% of the more food and other agricultural product to meet the growing demand compared to the production level of 2012. even under the sustainable scenario, we need at least 25% of the more fresh water. Where can we get that? Get additional 25 more fresh water is going to be huge challenging from a socio-economic perspective and also from an environment perspective. Because we keep seeing many rivers could not reach to the sea. We see many wetlands got dried up. We see many lakes got shrunk. So we have to come out with new solutions. And one of the new solutions that we're promoting is really the National Water Roadmap, really look at how the water resources could be really used and managed to deliver all the SDGs. That's linked up to the question about the connectedness of all the SDGs. And water is the fundamental natural resources that's connected with all the SDGs. With that in mind, we launched the National Water Roadmap initiative yesterday, try to encourage but also supporting all the countries come out with their shared national water vision, a shared investment plan into the water sector to really to boost the needed infrastructures, capacities, data and information and the governance to really to make sure that precious resources will be used equitably and sustainably to achieve all the SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Li Feng. And for the last word, and to make sure that we leave on an upbeat note, please talk about solutions, Susan.
Well, just listening to the ministerial statements this morning, I think there's a lot of solutions that are well understood, and I feel optimistic that we're headed in the right direction, in part by the questions that are coming out in this conversation today that support as well the main points that have been raised throughout the various ministerial statements about the need to reduce the fragmentation, about the need to focus on solutions, and about the fact that it's urgent. We have a number of solutions at our hands where we can ensure that our development pathways today ensure the quality of life and the prosperity and the security of our populations today without jeopardizing that of future generations. We're seeing that through examples where restoration has been part of the process that allows us to heal, to create hope for the next generation that the damage that's been done can be repaired. And I think we have a lot of hope and reason for optimism when we look at the youth delegations that are here from across the globe attending this conference now. They're inspired, they're dedicated, they're informed, and they are an enormous source of understanding and information that we can really draw on. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. With that, we've concluded our press conference. I'd like to say one more thing. Those of you interested in water issues, among the media, as Ibu Armida mentioned, the UN has its own sort of system and new strategy for water and sanitation. That's going to be launched in July. Those of you not yet on the mailing list for this and are interested, please talk to either Siska or me, and we'll make sure you'll be added. Last thing, we've been asked to gather for a quick family photo right here. After which, or before that, I'd like to show you about a new report by UNESCO and UN Water on water for prosperity and peace, also available in Bahasa Indonesia. Please look at the UNESCO website for details. Thank you. Let's go down.